What's good, y'all? Welcome back. And there's a lot of an explanation I have to do for this intro now because I feel like I don't even know if I'm gonna reminisce the way I'm gonna be doing these from now on, whether or not I'm gonna go 5 videos possibly around the same time, or just delay a couple things. But I feel like the next time I actually do post, and when you see a publication of a trailer review or maybe a movie review or some movie news in this case, I might as well just start it out with, okay, you know what? Here's an explanation and then getting to the video at hand. But for this case, I feel like you might have already, if you haven't already, just watched the podcast episode because I feel like that actually is more of a recap than just me explaining something in a video because you're going to just be watching it from, oh, I'm here for this, but basically not care exactly about what happened beforehand. But in this case, let's actually talk about the topic at hand, and it's Resident Evil. So yeah, Resident Evil's getting another movie reboot, and in this case, I would be excited, but then again, it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, you had a chance at the time because Resident Evil is a good horror game series from Capcom, mostly survival horror, but then turned into an action franchise later along the lines of games. Nowadays, I feel like it has come back to surface as to what it was before, thanks to the couple remakes they actually did make at the time. And funny enough, where I'm like, okay, the movie series, as controversial as it may be, but for the time, the games and the movies were simultaneously at the same time. I kind of enjoyed the movies for the original plot they had at hand, which at first they did try following the games, but have a couple characters sidelined, like Chris. And I feel like, yeah, you have the Umbrella story, but who's Alice in this case? Because that character does not exist in the games. And as soon as that franchise ended, it was like, okay, the final chapter, we're done. Then years later, and kind of a weird fashion, they actually decided to make a Resident Evil movie that actually followed the games, and it was like, you know what? There is possibly hope because you're actually using Resident Evil 1 and 2 as the inspiration for this, and you're actually using the comic accurate characters in this case. So it's like, okay, there's no case of bad translation, but we got to remember that was at the time of bad video game movies in a sense that, yeah, it wasn't until possibly, I believe, Sonic, where I feel like, okay, they're sort of getting these right. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? You failed on actually adapting an easy story and kind of mixing in the two movies in a way. I feel like Mortal Kombat actually did that better, where Mortal Kombat 1 actually incorporates stuff from the first game, but then used Mortal Kombat 2 elements for the last act of the movie, where I'm like, okay, it was still like a fun movie, but I feel like, yeah, the inclusion of two, thinking you're gonna get a sequel, and the sequel wasn't as good as people thought. That was Strike Two for Resident Evil, and Strike Three was the Netflix series, which I don't even want to know the biggest influence you guys had for that, but this clip speaks for itself.
180, crazy, thinking about the way I was, that the heartbreak changed me, baby. But look at where I ended up. If you wanna believe that anything could stop.
As for this version of Resident Evil, it's being directed by Cregger, which I said, you know what? There is a little bit of hope in that case because he did do the Barbarian and last year's Weapons, but also the fact that where he said, okay, this is an original story within the world of Resident Evil, I said, okay, so this could have been something else except it's in the world of Resident Evil, but it's called Resident Evil. So we're not adapting the game and we're doing an original story. Haven't seen that one before. And I might be leaning a little bit positive on this note because I feel like, yeah, Resident Evil, everybody expects them to adapt the games as it is. But I feel like, yeah, with all these new installments of the games, and just because Requiem did come out, and the fact that it actually brought characters back like Leon, and I feel like, okay, you know what? I can deal a new movie that doesn't adapt the games, but at least does something within the world, like an anthology in this case, where if Resident Evil's not going to continue on with, oh, we're following the Umbrella Corporation, or we're going to be following this one lead character from the games, if you could do a story that's in the world that feels like, oh, remember when video games had their mainline series and then do a spin-off that would be something on like the PSP or the side systems where it was like, oh, it's a collaboration, but it's not technically like a mainline game, like we're not going to come back to it. It's kind of giving me a little bit of that influence, but then again, it's like, is Resident Evil in a horror film and another video game movie attempt? Nowadays, I feel like video game movies, they're on the right end of the stick, but I feel like there are some franchises where I'm like, okay, we've seen the bad. Hopefully this is better than the bad, and at least it could be enjoyable with good hands at the helm. Well, long time has been coming for this one, so in that case, let's get to the trailer.
use your phone? Hello?
We're sorry.
Hey, babe. Look, I'm really sorry that we got disconnected earlier, but, some things have, happened. I'm in, like, a seriously fucked up situation right now.
So it is just a one-man story trying to survive. Possible liquors.
And it looks like there's a chance that we might not get to talk to each other again.
Oh. Or a giant monster. Oh. Okay, well, there's some glimpses of zombies.
I just wanted you to know.
Okay.
I love you.
That was kind of cool. As for this trailer, I guess you could say it doesn't resemble Resident Evil in a way. I feel like the environments and setting, like if you knew this was a Resident Evil game and this is going to be the story where, oh, this guy's going to an abandoned house and he has to find his way back home. Okay, I get that. But I feel like if you show this to anybody else, it would be like, oh, some random zombie, possibly apocalypse movie in this case. Like, besides the zombies and that giant monster, I wouldn't say it does resemble Resident Evil in a way since I don't see the normal, like, oh, you don't see the umbrella, you don't see the corporation in the hands of it, or you don't see the fact that, oh, everybody's living in an apocalypse, but it feels like everybody's just safe and sound, like no invasion, no liquors, no anything like that are still out there just yet. But it's an original take on the genre, which I feel like, yeah, you could do anything, but not anything when it says you're going to be adapting a certain video game franchise, because I already know that Until Dawn did the thing of, oh, we're going to be using the element of the game, which is the Wendigos for one little scene, and that's going to be it. And they made an original story out of it, which I thought, yeah, you could have just done the game and nobody would have said anything any differently. But we'll see what happens with Resident Evil because I feel like, yeah, you had many attempts. Hopefully, this was better than the last one, and it seems like it possibly will be. And there's no question in this because it's a by default. If you made bad attempts the first time, hopefully the next one is possibly better than the last one. But then again, I'm like, I like Austin Abrams. He's been one of those actors I wouldn't say I'm surprised that I've seen him in Euphoria first, which I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna be seeing him as a high schooler and everything I see him, but then from there to Weapons, and then I'm like, okay, he actually has some skill in horror, and I wouldn't be surprised if he actually leads a horror movie someday in his own thing. But I'm like, oh, he's doing Resident Evil, okay. He's worked with Jack Cregger before, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like those two, in case where I'm like, okay, I want to see actors who worked with previous directors come back for a certain horror movie by themselves. But I feel like, you know what? Maybe he could actually be a good lead. I don't know whether or not his character is supposed to be related to somebody or just some random in this universe. But hopefully Resident Evil sticks the landing and there's no higher attempts than this Netflix series because you could say Welcome to Raccoon City didn't attempt to actually follow the games, but I could say, yeah, despite certain castings and some elements where I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't agree if this is the way direction you're going to be taking it, which it would have been easy just to do one simple game instead of attaching two games in one single movie, which I feel like with the budget it had, it could have been a good franchise since I feel like, oh, we would have stuck with possibly a trilogy or just following the games as to the numbered games they are now. But we'll see. Hopefully it's actually good. All right, guys, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. All my social media is down in the description below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.